the SPS, we are dosing ammonia.
You know, kind of glitter-esque fungia you would got.
This is where people kind of know not to ask if it's for sale. That thing is amazing. We call it the Yeti. Yeah.
And you had a pretty good story for it. Why don't you tell that?
But you only get 10 minutes, Salem, okay?
What's up, Reef Builders? Salem Clements here. I'm in Los Angeles touring some shops, and one that I heard I had to go to was Golden State Corals. Let's go take a look. Here with the owner, Elliot. Elliot, why don't you walk us through the shop, how long you had it, the history, and what you do here?
For sure. As Golden State Corals, we've been here for about 4 years, but we've been at this location for about 10 years. We do servicing around LA, do tank installations and all that, but my real passion is farming coral, more specifically acros. So I'd love to show you guys around.
Let's go see it, yeah. Show me the goodness.
This is our Aptasia farm.
Bergia time, yeah.
Yeah, but no, we're gonna redo this and make it a really cool acro tank very soon.
The leather though, that's...
That thing is amazing. And it will do really well with acros. It loves high light, high flow. We call it the Yeti. It's a pain in the butt to cut and frag, but it's a really awesome piece.
All right, let's see what you got behind the scenes.
Let's go to the good stuff. This is currently our main display. We got our chalices below and our torches and euphilia mostly in the middle, but some in some pretty intense lighting. This is a 150-gallon tank. It's about 4 feet, 30 inches tall, I believe, 24 inches front to back. This gets a lot of light, but it's tied into our farming vat, which is this guy right here. This bad boy is about 8 feet by 4 foot by I think 14 inches tall. And come over here and push this little button. We can actually shut off the flow so we can see what is inside. But you only get 10 minutes, Salem, okay?
Only 10 minutes to look.
Just kidding.
Yeah, 8 by 4, only 10 minutes.
Only 10 minutes, that's how long we get. No, I'm kidding. But this is where we do a lot of the farming, and a lot of our frags that are sold here, a lot of our WYSIWYG online stuff are over there. And then we got a little mixture of some LPS and some Ghanies in that corner, but primarily acros.
Yeah, so it looks like you're mainly doing some radions, maybe some blades, and a mixture of Orphic or Ali bars.
Yeah, so major radion fan. We have G4s on this system, a mixture of G5 and G6 on this system, which we are supplementing with blades just to help with the shadowing that we might be getting. We actually recently just added a second one, so we're curious how that's gonna do for us. So far, so good. It's been 2 weeks now. And then on that one, we just added Orphics, where we were thinking adding some more violet light to the system for the spectrum and also for shadowing. So kind of hitting them at an angle to get those areas where they may not be getting light, hoping that we'll get more intense coloration.
So where you try to keep par at on most of this stuff?
So this one, during the peak hours, which are usually about 3 to 4 hours, give or take, we're hitting over 1,000 par at the top, and right around here it's in the 500-600 mark, and then over here it's probably the 400s, and then it's like 60 to 80, I would say, depending on what areas you're checking. I will say we do keep higher nutrients, and I think that's why we're able to run par that high. But our phosphates are very low, which we compensate for by adding phosphate. to kind of help keep their colors, because they definitely lose their coloration when it's prolonged.
Yeah, so how high is high? Where are you trying to keep nitrates at? If you can get phosphates up, where are you trying to keep them at?
So my sweet spot or goal has always kind of been at the 0.06, 07, below 0.1 really, but 0.06 seems to have been the sweet spot for us in the long run. Nitrates usually linger anywhere between 20 and 30. I try to keep it at 20, 30. Makes me a little nervous, but we haven't noticed anything wrong with having it at 30.
And then do you do like any nutrient export, or you just try to keep everything up because the phosphates are low?
Yeah, so honestly, the only export we have is a pretty decent sized Refugium, and then skimmers.
Skimmers, yeah.
And occasional water changes. So, but I think between the Acros and the Refugium, the phosphate just gets sucked up.
What salt are you using?
So when we're topping off the system, because we sell coral out of here, we use Instant Ocean. If I ever have to do like a bigger water change for whatever reason, I will use Tropic Marin.
Okay. All right. So yeah, what do you do for alkalinity, calcium, etc. on this system?
So for this one, for alkalinity and calcium, it's mainly our calcium reactor, which we keep under here. Goes through a lot. We're using the Hydro Sol. We recently put this on to kind of pump it into the system. It's running nonstop, literally never shuts off.
Wow.
We do have to occasionally supplement magnesium. We throw Remag in there. We use 2 little fishies. We're really happy that they transitioned back to the larger skeleton or coral skeletons. Huge difference, I think. So that's our main thing for alk and calcium. Some mag for sure. We also have magnesium on a doser that doses over here. And we recently put up these Sentia dosers.
Oh, the CCAM.
They're awesome, man. I love their app. They're really clean and sleek.
The color coordinated lines are great.
Yeah,
too,
I try. Yeah. They make it easy with those little, caps, I guess, that you can identify.
Yeah, we've got some of those in the studio. They're some of my favorites. They're really easy to set up too.
They're super easy. It literally walks you through like everything, calibration, all that, and it's super simple. Very user friendly.
Yeah, so sodium hydroxide, all for Reef ammonia.
So this is technically split into 2 systems. So this is our big LPS system, and then this is our SPS. So for the SPS, we are dosing ammonia, which has been really awesome in my opinion. And mag, and that's pretty much it. And then our trace elements that we're dosing. So then our other system with the LPS, we actually recently, I don't even know if this is like correct thing to do, but we're pretty much dosing all for Reef and sodium hydroxide, but we do all for Reef during the day, and at night we switch it over to sodium hydroxide, very little, just to get that pH boost.
Buffer, okay.
Yeah, and then also vinegar, because we sometimes do have nutrient issues in this particular system.
Got it. Yeah, hydros for automation, it looks like?
Yeah, I don't know about automation necessarily, but for monitoring, absolutely. I'm a little nervous on automating things just because electronics tend to not always cooperate and sometimes do go bad. But for at least the monitoring aspect of it, it's an awesome product.
All right.
Huge fan.
And then, so flow, it looks like a mixture of MP10s and then a lot of gyres in the vat. When you're trying to plan flow for these systems, I mean, are you wanting constant flow, kind of a gyre pattern? What's your goal there?
So my go-to schedule, especially with like the MP40s and the Ecotech products, is the nutrient transport. That just because I feel like it lifts a lot of detritus and stuff into the water column and hopefully out for the skimmers to pull out or whatnot. And then with the vat, being that it's a lower profile, we're a big fan of the gyres. They are a pain to work with as far as keeping them maintained so they flow properly, but they really work on the shallow tanks. And
yeah, so I've not really seen a lot of people pull off the branch rock scape, but you did it pretty well here. Usually it's nubs, but you've got colonies throughout all of this. When you planned this out, what were you thinking placement-wise? How did you make the scape work?
So honestly, I didn't really have a plan going into it. It is kind of a tall tank, so it's a little bit awkward to work with. And at the time, I did happen to have a ton of branching rock. And so it kind of did its thing. And a lot of it is actually smaller pieces of branch rock glued to the main rock, mostly so that we can pull things out easily without completely restructuring everything. And it just seems to work. And I think I've also noticed it allows better flow to kind of go through and in between all the acros and rocks. So it doesn't allow for too much detritus to settle really.
So this is like commercially available branch, or is it like real old school
stuff?
stuff?
So most of it is actually real Reef.
Okay.
Tonga branching. In our sump, we have some really old, actual, like real old school live rock, probably 10 plus years old. And in here, there's a couple pieces where now they're darkening up, but it's Australian branching rock, which we did cure before we ended up using it in here.
So something a lot of people struggle with, with SPS is RTN, STN. Have you experienced, that many losses? What's your kind of like average rate, if you had to say so?
Yeah, for sure. I'm really grateful because the last couple of years, honestly, we don't get a lot of it anymore. On the random occasion when we mess up and, a certain trace element goes too high, we'll notice certain things stress. But the only time we really have loss is when we frag, and if we're fragging like 6 little branches off of an acro, maybe one of them will die. But usually if they don't die within the first couple of days, they're good. In the past, before trace elements, before really stabilizing the system and really being on top of it, we were getting, pieces would go here and there. But for sure nowadays, it's been a lot less.
So what are you doing trace element wise? Like what program are you using?
So we recently moved over to Captivate, Reef Blueprint, and I believe our dailies right now are manganese, cobalt, iron, iodine we had to decrease or stop using right now it's been a month because we accidentally increased it a little too high there. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Rubidium, which I don't know what that exactly does, but we're kind of playing with it. Oh, and nickel is something that we recently started introducing, and that's been really good too. Oh, and fluoride. I think fluoride is super important.
What are you doing for, you said you dose phosphates. Do you do like any other form of nutrient input, feeding, etc.?
Yeah, so we make our own fish food, so we feed pretty heavy. We actually recently started adding pellet food, mainly into the vat, to kind of help push the phosphates up. But along with that, we're adding phosphate daily. We also feed the corals about 3 times a week, where we make this little concoction of a bunch of different foods. A mixture of Benepets, Faunamarins, Coral Sprint as of late, and we use Captivate stuff. And occasionally we'll add a little bit of Phyto in there to mix. That's pretty much it. And throw it in there. Oh, and then we also started adding Tropic Marin's phosphate as well, in addition to dosing phosphate daily.
So I knew you from the Wonderland Ghani, the Ass Clown Zoas, but I was not expecting this many acros when I came here. So I'm sure you have named quite a few acros at this point.
We've named a couple ourselves, some which we have no idea where they came from or where we got them, just because, when they're frags, you kind of lose track when you're dealing with this many acros, and once they get bigger, like they don't look anything like the frag, right? So it's like, I can't find like records of where I got it. It was probably at some kind of show. So there's definitely a few that we have been able to name. One of them is GSC Spirit Bomb. I think a really unique piece. I have no idea what type of acro it is. I think it's more appreciated when you look from above too, just because you can see between all the branches. And then another one, which actually looks really similar when you have them side by side. It's all in the details, right? So this one we call the Sonic Boom. This one's a really cool piece. And on the frags as well, it's really interesting. When we frag them, this like swirling thing kind of happens on the perimeter where it's growing or basing out. Another one is this one, which we call the Cell Max. It's a really cool red piece, gets a little bit of that kind of greenish turquoisey base and almost baby blue tips, which I don't know if that's really the blue light kind of capturing, being caught in the white. Yeah, but it looks blue, so we're gonna call it blue. But it's a really cool piece. It grows really dense. And it's interesting because the one that's growing in here, which is getting more light, is more of an intense red versus the one that we have in our vat. It's getting less light, but it's growing about the same rate, but the colors are slightly different, which is really interesting, being that they're in the same water column and literally only getting different lighting.
Yes, you got like a lot of other really nice signature and collector pieces. The SBB Heisenberg, Tussi's Rainbow, which I've not even seen in person until now.
It's an awesome granny.
Can you walk me through some of your favorite pieces in here?
Yeah, so as of late, like you said, Tussi's Rainbow Granulosa. It's pretty small. I did try to get a chunkier piece, which I'm really happy with. The colors are, very different. Like if you're looking at the whole tank from a distance, like it's very distinct. I have fallen in love with smoothies as of late.
Smoothies are it, man.
Dude,
we need a wave of them.
Incredible. I know. They're really awesome. You know, they don't have the best reputation, I feel like as far as like being hardy. I think they are pretty hardy.
I think people, it's kind of like wall hammers. I think people give them a bad rap.
Yeah. Some of them are slower growing for sure, and I think there's that little period of time where they kind of have to settle in, and once they do, then they can explode.
Especially the new stuff. I mean, like a lot of the new smoothies coming in, it's probably people get experience with that, and then they don't keep trying.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. I think if you get, you know, obviously if you're getting a smoothie that's been in the hobby and in captivity for quite some time, you'll have much better luck.
Yeah.
You know, some of the wild stuff is coming in. So
yes. So let's maybe talk about that a little bit. So wild stuff for quarantine. What are you doing? What are you mostly worried about, etc.?
Yeah. So what am I worried about?
Everything.
All sorts of things. The unknown. No. So our process, which we rarely bring in wild.
Yeah.
And if it is wild, I'm usually buying it from someone at a coral show, which, you know, it's a piece that intrigues me, and I'll take a chance with it. I'll try to make sure that it's encrusted. At least it's grown a little bit in captivity. But when we bring it in, first thing we do is stick it under a microscope, man.
That's it, man. Yeah.
Dude, that was like probably the best investment we made like the last few years. And it's crazy the things you find. I think there's a ton of like white bugs going around right now, and it's saved us a huge headache. So our process is pretty much we bring them in. I try to get them in like bundles. So it's not like one piece. I don't have to quarantine one piece at a time. So I'll buy several from like shows or like an online order from reputable vendors. And we'll throw it in a little frag tank that we have. We'll do daily water changes using this system water pretty much. So it stays pretty stable. But interceptor.
Yep.
Huge. Interceptor is major. It kills all those bugs. We also do dipping. We use a mixture of different dips. We use Tropic Marin's dip, I think. It's like an iodine based, I think. Melifix Marine. I'm a huge fan of Melifix. I think it's pretty easy on the corals for the most part. Recently we got some of the Fauna Marin dip too, which we've been kind of...
I think it's called the dip.
The dip, literally the dip.
Yeah.
We'll dip them, and we always chop off bases. And remount them. But I think interceptor is the biggest one, because I think with a lot of the wild stuff or the white bugs, red bugs, and I haven't seen yet, and I hope to never see, but black bugs.
Yeah.
Or those new flatworms that are out.
Yeah, there's the new Acropora.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting them, so which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, so people that might be dealing with that, you know, what are the signs that you've noticed from white bugs, and do you intercept the whole system? What have you done that at all?
I have. So our typical practice, we usually do our entire system once a year, just as a precautionary, not necessarily because we see anything or find anything, but you know, in the past we've had red bugs, and the symptoms are kind of obvious. If you have good eyesight, you can spot them. Magnifying glass makes it a lot easier, and it helps that they're pretty bright reddish orange. But the main thing you notice is lack of polyp extension. And I think they do prefer certain corals over others. Like I think they like smoothies a lot. I think even tenuous and even millies, I think they're attracted to. But main thing is polyp extension. And if it's not like flatworms, you know, you cancel that out. It's probably a bug of some kind. And I think white bugs is probably the one that's been more prevalent these days.
I've seen those a lot lately, like everywhere.
I keep hearing more and more about them. And I've seen them bringing in corals. So when we pick them up, we bring them in, I check them under the scope, and you see them. And they literally will crawl into the polyp, and it's weird.
Inside out,
like
crazy.
It's freaky.
Body snatcher stuff, man.
Yeah, seriously. And they are harder to kill, so you actually have to do a much stronger dose of interceptor to kill them versus the red bugs.
Yeah, so you were telling me off camera you had taken one off, and how long was it took for the dose to be effective?
Dude, so when I was making the treatment for the quarantine tank, I used a drop of, I managed to isolate one. That took some time, and I think I damaged the coral kind of popping them off there, but I managed to get them off, get them on a slide, and I put a single drop of some pretty concentrated interceptor, and it took like 5 hours for him to stop moving, like completely. You could see it slowly like turning almost blue, like lack of oxygen, and slowly like slowing down, but it took about 5 hours for it to completely stop moving.
Yeah, so shifting from acros a little bit, you've got a lot more than that in this system. You've got a really impressive collection of chalices.
I love my chalices.
Power bankies. I mean, walk us through some of them. I mean, there's some really, really unique stuff in here.
So this is where we put the good stuff. This is, you know, we keep like tiles and grow out pieces all over the shop, but this is where people kind of know not to ask if it's for sale. Although some people will still try. But this is where we kind of grow out a lot of our chalices, a few of our nicer bower bankies, and even torch corals. But I am a huge chalice fan. I love old school, new school, weird ones, things that have like some kind of graft. All the above. Literally, like, I think they're a really fascinating coral. I just wish they grew a little faster, you know?
Yeah, there's some real stunner. Like, I mean, these ones we were talking about, I've not really even seen these since like 2019, 2020, they came in from Endo, and they all died, and you've got a frag
So
still.
I have a frag of it, but man, that's literally been stacked. Okay, maybe it's grown from like that top little notch area where you see it originally mounted. That's like 2 years of growth. Man.
Quarter inch, oh yeah.
Like
Record.
Maybe if I directly fed them a little more, but it's not that easy to do in this tank without knocking down acros and destroying the tank, but they may grow a little faster, but you know, they're just super slow growing for me.
Yeah, so away from this tank, you've got lots of other stuff in the shop. You showed me some really interesting, you know, kind of glitter-esque fungia you had got. They've got this gold specks on them.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting piece. We just like recently picked those up actually, and it's funny because when you look at it, it's just a green flake coral, but if you look a little closer, the tentacles are like this speckled, sparkly, glittery gold. And it's just a really unique piece, like, you know, it's in all the detail.
And you got like a lot of other aquaculture stuff in here, like this Cyphastria, it's got kind of the streaks on it. I mean, that's a really nice one.
Yeah, I think that's a weird thing it does when it grows. I forget the exact name, but it is a worldwide corals piece.
Like echinatas, chalices?
Yeah, these echinatas, I forget what those are called, sunset. Old school chalices, we got, you know, a lot of mummy eyes. I've had mummy eyes, some cloudberries, pink boobies, old school, Miami Hurricane.
Oh yeah, classic.
You know, I'm a sucker for those.
Yeah, so I've seen this chalice all across Southern California, this cupping rainbow one.
Yeah.
And you had a pretty good story for it. Why don't you tell that?
So we've had this for a long time. We got it wild, obviously, and it's probably, I think I've had it for like 8 or so years. Now, when we got it, we held on to it for about a year. And at the time, we were called California Aquariums. I had a business partner then. We parted ways. I kept the shop, but we had to literally cut every coral in half that we had at the shop, right? So A, that was fun, but B, he took half of this chalice, and eventually at some point, half of it was sold to Unique, and then the other half from Unique sold it to Cali Kid. And it's been renamed like, I don't even know how many times now at this point. But I'm almost certain that we are the originators of this chalice, which we call the livid chalice. And it's a really unique one because it is an actual chalice. It literally cups.
I mean, it's really bright in person.
Yeah.
And it's got like a real good, I mean, like a yellow, green, pink, blue rim, really attractive. And like, and here's what some frags look like if people wonder. So it's not...
Actually, I think it's over
where's it at?
there. We don't actually have a lot right now,
mind.
and I don't know if it'll show right now either.
I guess there's just the one frag.
Yeah, there's literally one. That might be flipped over on the backside too, which I gotta fix later. But but yeah, it's a really cool chalice, and I think it's a chalice also that appreciates a little more light than your typical chalices, because most of them are.
This one's a little bit duller than the other one over there.
Yeah, it's the color. It's probably parameters because it's a totally different system. It's a combination of parameters and lighting, I think.
Then why don't you show us this piece as the kind of last one, your newest piece you just got.
I'm actually not entirely sure what it is. I'll stick my hand in to kind of pick it up, but I thought it had a lot of potential. And I've only had it for like maybe 4 days, but it's already starting to color up more and more. It's got like this weird purple to yellow.
Yeah, we were looking at the coral finder. We were thinking maybe it's a Lobophilia robusta, which it'll look like an acantho. And I mean, dude, it's got yellow, red, very nice one.
It's still angry, so I'll see as it gets healthier how much it puffs up, and we can kind of determine, and even hopefully it colors up even more. So I'm hoping I can get this one to survive, but this is the stuff I kind of love. Like when you go to like
little oddball.
Like I don't go to the wholesaler often. I'm usually going for like inverts or fish.
Yeah.
But every now and then when I see a coral that I think has potential, I'm grabbing it. So,
absolutely.
You know, yeah, if the opportunity shows itself, I'm gonna try to snag it.
So something else you've got over here external to coral was
Yeah.
kind of a working refugium type of system. Why don't you walk us through what you do here?
Yeah, so honestly, the only reason I made this tank was one of my suppliers started bringing in Trimagobies out of Cebu. I think that's Philippines.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Yep.
Okay. So they're like these tiny little gobies that I'm obsessed with. They're just super fascinating little fish. You know, we were keeping them in containers. They're only in this container right now because I just got them today, and I'm gonna eventually release them into the actual tank. But we created this as like a little safe haven for them, and we figured having a ton of macroalgae in this tank would keep things pretty stable and kind of keep algae at a minimum. You know, just a good hiding place for them.
You know, I was really impressed. I walked in here, saw the pinnacle of high end, and then you've got bumblebee shrimp and sea moths and trimagobies and cucumbers and everything,
so
man.
We don't have like we don't have a very big fish section. It's a really small fish section. You know, a lot of our customers they have smaller reefs, but also larger, so we focus on the reef safe fish. I love wrasses. You know, we have a lot of the reef safe fish and things that are active.
Yeah, so all your fish and macroalgae, etc., are in these systems, but if we look behind us, looks like you've also got a zebra moray, but a lot of...
I couldn't resist.
Yeah, he's
so
great.
tiny.
Little baby
I've never
size.
seen one that small.
On top of that, you've got kind of softy systems here for beginners as well. A lot of Kenya trees and stuff.
A lot of Kenya trees, some branching GSP, which is awesome. Some Yumas, a couple leathers, some random low light. I know leptos, random zoas, some jawbreakers, pallies, a little bit of everything.
Bunch of bubble
anemones,
tips.
a ton of anemones.
So kind of beginner stuff to the highest of the high end in here. I mean, that's
we try a little bit for everyone, you know.
Thanks for taking me around the shop. If people want to find any of the pieces they saw today, where can they get it?
They can go to our website, www.goldenstatecorals.com.
All right. People were definitely right about this shop. One of the best I've seen in terms of diversity of some really weird stuff and collector level stuff. If you're looking for nice aquaculture pieces, make sure to visit the website. Thanks for tuning into the video. Let us know if you loved it. Let us know if you hated it. Let us know what we can improve on. And be sure to like, subscribe, and tune in for the next one. See you there. Thanks.